When a beginner to the gym embarks on their classical skinny to muscular transformation, they fail to acknowledge one thing. And I'm not surprised and I'm not blaming anyone, because at the start of anything you do, you're not necessarily meant to know a whole bunch. So what is that one thing I'm talking about in particular? It is that the work outside the gym is just as important as inside the gym, as it goes in football. The work you do off the pitch is just as important as the work you do on the pitch. So in today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through a list of habits that has helped me make my classic skinny to muscular transformation, gaining over 27 kilos in the process. Okay, so the first habit that has helped me along my classic skinny to muscular transformation is consistency with sleep. People underestimate and they really miss the importance of sleep towards muscle growth, because inevitably the better the sleep you get, the better the quality of everything you do in your day. B, sleep helps you increase your rate of recovery. C, it helps you keep your hormones balanced and it keeps your essential hormones firing at good rates. For example, with us men, our testosterone and our human growth hormone, which is going to indirectly help us with muscle growth and, in this situation, recovery. So making sure you have consistent sleep is super important. And in order to have consistent sleep yourself, we need to regulate what is called our circadian rhythm. If you don't know what your circadian rhythm is, it basically just refers to your body clock, right? So you know when you fly to a different country in a different time zone and you're all jet lagged, that's because your circadian rhythm isn't in line with that time zone, right? And if you don't have consistent sleep, then that's basically like you traveling to a different part of the world every day in a different time zone and you being jet lagged every day, right? It's so important that we have consistent sleep, not so we can just experience the benefits of sleep, you know, the increased recovery, but the consistency of everything else you do in your day-to-day life, right? For example, if you go to bed 10 p.m. one day and then 3 a.m. the next day, then the time you go to the gym or the time you eat your meals is going to be very inconsistent. Therefore, it's going to make things very difficult, and it's going to make life a lot harder for you if you're trying to bulk and gain muscle, right? Because one of the most important things towards bulking and gaining muscle is habit number 2, and that is predictability, right? If you don't have consistent sleep and your schedule is all over the place, one day you're waking up at 10 a.m, the next day you're waking up at 1 p.m, and then the next day you're waking up at 6 a.m, right? You're not going to be predictable with your habits. And what I mean by this is doing stuff at similar or at the same times every day, so your body can basically start to pick up on these patterns. By predictability, I mean predictability with our training and our diet. Let's start off with the diet side of things, right? One of the biggest bits of advice I give to people for bulking and gaining muscle is having the predictability with your diet. So in other words, eating at similar or at the same times every single day. Why is this? Us humans have a hormone in our body called ghrelin. This ghrelin hormone, when it gets released in our body, it sends a signal to our brain, which then makes us hungry. So basically, this ghrelin hormone stimulates our appetite, right? So whenever you feel hungry, just know that this ghrelin hormone has been released and sent a signal to your brain, therefore you feel hungry. And as a matter of fact, we can control when we feel hungry, right? And this is through predictability, right? If you start to eat at the same times every single day, so you have breakfast at 10 a.m. before you leave the house for work, or you have a pre-workout meal 2 hours before you go to the gym, right? If you start to do this for probably around a week to 10 days, your body is going to start to pick up on your dietary and your habits, right? Therefore, your body's going to start to work in alignment with what you're doing, right? So it starts to recognize, so you're eating breakfast at 10 a.m. So what's it going to do? Release the ghrelin hormone and send a signal to your brain around that time. Therefore, when it comes to sitting down with your plate of food, you are going to eat it like it's no tomorrow, and you are going to have less problems with getting the calories and the food down you, right? So making sure that we're predictable with our diet for that reason is super important. So we basically just use our body to our advantage, right? So, our body just picks up on our habits, therefore it's going to be a lot easier to do things. And the same goes with training, okay? Although we don't necessarily have a hormone that goes off like we do with diet, right? Our body can just sort of prime itself for the physical activity, right? For example, if you train at 9 a.m. one day and then 10 p.m. the next day, your sort of body clock with your physical activity is going to be all over the place, and it won't necessarily know when to prime itself up, right? However, if you stick to a set training time every single day, then your body's going to be like, okay, now I know that I'm doing physical activity at this time most days of the week, therefore I'm going to get myself naturally ready and prime myself for the physical activity. So, if you're predictable with everything you do, then everything's going to get so much easier because you're going to allow your body to work with you. And this is a cheat code, my friend. So that is habit number 2. And making sure we are consistent with our training times is really important for habit number 3. And this is pre-workout rituals. Making sure you're training at the same time will really help, as I said, prime yourself. Therefore, you can have pre-workout rituals that, that are non-negotiable and that are going to get you even more ready and even more fired up for your gym sessions, okay? So I'll give you an example of some stuff I do for my pre-workout ritual, right? So sometimes I sit down and watch a motivational YouTube video of my favorite bodybuilders training. If I don't necessarily feel like training, we're going to have those days. We're going to have those days where we need to do a leg day, for example, and we don't necessarily feel like going to the gym, or, we wake up early and we don't want to get out of bed, but we've got to get the work done, right? Whenever I have one of those days, I make sure I switch on some of my favorite bodybuilders giving me a little motivational prep talk, and that just gets me fired up. The second thing I do is a pre-workout meal, okay? You can have a pre-workout meal anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours before your gym session, and this is why I say training at the same time is really important, so you can start to do these things at the same time, right? Train at the same time, have a pre-workout meal at the same time, which is going to help you eat at the same times every day, right? Which is going to make you so predictable, and as I say, the more predictable you are with your habits, the more progress you will make. One other thing that I do as a pre-workout ritual, as I've started to do actually, is just get on the treadmill for 5 to 10 minutes before my session, put my favourite music in my ears and get me absolutely hyped up, right? I start to visualise my session. What are my sets going to look like? How many reps do I want to get with certain weight, right? This gets you really in the zone, and as I say a lot of the time, it's important to take care of the physical side of things, but it's also important to mentally engage yourself, okay? The better you are mentally engaged, the better you are going to physically perform in the session, right? So making sure you're locked in mentally is just as important as feeling physically primed for the session. So that is another thing I do for a pre-workout ritual. And why have pre-workout rituals, you say? Well, as I said, it's going to help you train hard, get in the zone. It's going to help you physically prime yourself even more and get yourself psychologically hyped up. So that is habit number 3. Habit number 4 is accountability. Okay, sometimes when we embark on a journey of growth and improvement and development, whether that's physical or mental or whatever, sometimes we aren't necessarily as internally driven to the point where we would do something for ourselves, right? Sometimes we need that external responsibility. Sometimes we need someone to check in. Sometimes we need someone to hold us up to the standards that we promised, right? And this is where accountability comes in, right? Let me give you a scenario. You're 3 weeks into your gym journey. The initial hype, the initial excitement has weared off, and now you're starting to feel a little bit demotivated, right? You go to the gym at 7:30 every morning. It's a Wednesday, and now you have a leg day. Will you be more likely to show up on your own than if you were with a training partner who said, mate, I don't give a shit what you're saying. I don't give a shit what you think. I'm making sure you show up at 7:30 and I'm putting you through a brutal leg day. Which scenario would you most likely show up with? Obviously the one where you have a training partner and an accountability partner, because he's holding you accountable to do something, right? And humans have this weird thing where we hold someone in higher regard than ourselves sometimes. And to put that into perspective, parents are really protective of their babies and their children, right? So they would probably sacrifice themselves for their children, right? That's what most parents do. And it's the same situation with this. We wouldn't necessarily do something for ourselves, but we would feel obliged to do something for someone else, right? So making sure we have that accountability in our life is super, super important. And that is where I'd like to present to you and invite you guys to my very own free community. I have a free community where I basically help men with bulking, weight gain and muscle gain who aren't sure where to start. They're at the beginning of their journeys, or they've been going for a while but they're spinning their wheels and they're not sure what to do. You can get on a call with me, you can hold yourself accountable with me and plenty of other men on the exact same journey as you, and this is the beauty of a community, to hold each other accountable so we can see each other progress and blossom. So if you want to be a part of the Alliance, as it's called, it's going to be the top link in the description. I'd absolutely love to see you in there. But anyways, that is habit number 4. Habit number 5 is meal preparation. If you're not necessarily sure what meal prep is, it basically just refers to preparing meals in advance, right? For example, if you're out all day in London or your nearest city and you've got a busy day and you don't necessarily have time to go to the shops, or you would have to go and buy food at the shops, but you don't necessarily want to be spending unnecessary money. This is where meal preparation comes in, right? It is absolutely essential that we get our calories down every single day as consistently as possible, because if you don't, then you're not going to gain weight, because without being in a calorie surplus, it's biologically impossible to put on weight and eventually make that skinny to muscular transformation, right? So this is where meal prep comes in, right? Spend a couple of hours in advance. This could be the day before or on a Sunday, right? Just preparing meals in advance, and then when the day comes, you can just go to the fridge, grab the meals and go, and then you can eat them on the go. It's as easy as that, right? If you're busy and if you're traveling a lot, then meal prep is absolutely essential. So what I would highly advise you to do is just spend a couple of hours every week on a certain day just preparing meals, right? And then life will get so much easier for you, because you don't want to end up just spending, 50 quid a week on meal deals for the sake of it, right? Because you didn't have enough time, you weren't prepared enough, and then you're just spending unnecessary money which could have gone towards more essential things, right? So meal preparation is super, super essential, and it has really helped me with my transformation. For example, if I'm out for the whole day, I have meals prepped for me in advance, so they're really easy to eat, and I'm still getting my calories in even if I'm busy and I'm out and about. Okay, so that is the penultimate habit, number 5. The final habit that has helped me make my skinny to muscular transformation is consistent and constant environment curation, right? What I mean by this is basically manipulating my environment so it's optimized for me to achieve my goal. Environment is super important because as humans, we are a byproduct of our environment, right? We are not controlled by our environment, but we become a product of that. So our identity becomes a part of what we surround ourselves with. And our environment refers to everything we surround ourselves with, right? From our door to our bedroom, to the people, to our family, to my parents downstairs, to the friends I see, to the window facing out to the other houses across my street, right? Everything around you is your environment. But what I'm more specifically talking about is the information and the content you consume. What is your favourite sport? Let's say your favourite sport is football or soccer, right? If you support a football team and if you follow them all season and you watch all of the football games and sometimes you even go to the games, right? You are then going to start hanging around people who also like football, or you're going to start joining group chats of people who support the same team as you, or you're going to start to follow Instagram pages, for example, right? That is you curating your environment and you becoming a byproduct of it. And because you're surrounding yourself by that so much, then, part of your identity is going to become football and the football team that you support. So let me give you guys an example of how I curate my environment to optimize for my goal. Okay, so I watch gym content on YouTube. I watch professional bodybuilders training. I read bodybuilding books. Dorian Yates there, Jeff Nippard there, right? I have mates, my best friends I go to the gym with, right? I talk to people at my gym. I'm posting content like this on YouTube, which is incentivizing me to learn even more about the gym. I wear gym clothes. I have a gym bottle. I have supplements in my cupboard, right? The more that the gym is in my environment, the more I'm going to become a byproduct of that. And in other words, that basically means that, the more I surround myself with the gym, the bigger I'm essentially going to be, because the more I'm going to learn. It's inevitable, right? If you're surrounding yourself with books, videos, films, people about the gym, then you are going to learn more, therefore you are going to progress more, right? So it's all about curating your environment as optimized towards your goal. So let me give you an example, right? If you have a goal to become the best accountant in England, right? What do you want to start doing? You want to start watching YouTube videos on accounting. You want to start listening to podcasts of top accountants. You want to start reading books. You want to, optimize your desk, get a calculator for accounting. You want to start to join forums and connect to people on LinkedIn, for example, about accounting. You want to start to join groups. You want to get a mentor. That is how important your environment is, right? And there is a really famous saying by a man called Sam Ovens, and I think it goes by, show me your environment and I'll show you your future, right? So that basically means the better optimized your environment is towards your goal, the better you'll be, right? So in this situation with bulking, you want to start to listen to podcasts of, you know, fitness and bodybuilders. You want to start watching videos of bodybuilders training and giving tips and tricks. You want to start reading books. You want to start getting the food that is going to help you bulk. No shit in the cupboards. You want to be, you know, buying pure bulk foods. You want to be getting supplements, right? You want to be listening to podcasts, as I said. You want to start to surround yourself with people who are bulking, and that links back to the accountability bit as well. The accountability helps you curate your winning environment, right? And ultimately, a winning environment depends on how much it is optimized towards achieving your goal. Okay, so they are these six habits, I think. They are these 6 habits that help me make the classic skinny to muscular transformation, and I really hope that these habits can help you do the same thing. As I said at the beginning of the video, the work you do outside of the gym can be just as important as the work you do inside the gym. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video and you've learned a little thing or two. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, drop a comment down below, and if you want to stay around, I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, so a subscription would genuinely mean a lot. And back to the community. If you want more help beyond these YouTube videos and you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're not sure where to start and you want to hold yourself accountable and curate your winning environment, then the community is going to be the top link in the description. It's completely free, no charges, and I'd absolutely love to have you in there. So without further ado, I will see you next time.